You are the movement's greatest resource, and the number one thing advocates can do to support safe and legal access is to develop an ongoing relationship with the individuals who represent you at the local level, in your state legislatures, and in Congress.
I think that the best thing patients can do right now to get involved and be active is to speak with a member of Congress and to their local government officials. Call your congressman's office or go see your congressman when she's in town. Speak to them, let them know that you're there, you're a patient, and you vote, and you matter.
Wherever they live in the country, build a relationship with their member of Congress and bring these issues to their attention. This is a battle that is not yet won. It's been a lot of victories at the state level, but we really need to make some progress here in Washington.
Well, I think to get any legislation adopted in Congress, you have to have people active in the street, and they have to be active with their members of Congress. It's going to happen, but it won't happen without people being involved. America in politics is not a spectator sport. You got to get involved.
The purpose of this exercise is to give you as advocates a basic set of skills to begin making these relationships with your members of Congress so that they understand how to represent you appropriately. The ABCs of citizens lobbying: be accurate, be brief, be courteous, and do your follow-up. A is for accuracy. It's important that in the course of developing the relationship with your member of Congress, you provide brief and accurate information. Whether you're discussing a key piece of legislation, the issue in general, an important piece of science, or something new happening in your area, it's important for you to understand the context of that information and relay that information in an accurate manner. The key to winning a legislator over is being able to be an honest and accurate source about medical marijuana. It's important for advocates to be brief. At any given time, members of Congress or your elected officials' attention is divided between a number of key issues, a number of key organizations. In many cases, you're only going to have about 15 minutes, maybe a half hour, to communicate clearly what you want from this member of Congress. That means being able to introduce yourself, share your experiences, provide the ask of information, why it's important that you have or obtain this particular goal, and then suggest a follow-up date and time to continue this relationship in the future. It's important for advocates to be courteous. Whether or not you agree with your member of Congress or elected official, or they agree with you, it's important that you maintain open lines of communication and don't burn bridges. Your goal is to create a safe space for your legislator to make a positive decision about the issue of medical marijuana. Make sure you thank them for their support and ask for their continued support in the future. These are common sense courtesy items that you should extend to your member of Congress, not only because they are elected to represent you, but because they have the power to affect change. It's important that advocates do follow up. Be punctual and persistent in your follow-up. This is the opportunity to convey what you discussed in the meeting that you had with your member of Congress, convey what you hope the member of Congress will do on your behalf, and then provide any information that was missing from your meeting. Tactical tips for advocates. When communicating with your members of Congress, it's important to not be a know-it-all. A few short statements about why you support or oppose a specific piece of legislation, and a few points backing up why you feel that way as a patient, as an advocate, as a provider, is all a member of Congress and his or her staff need to hear. It's more important for meetings to happen when legislation is in the process of moving. If there's a committee hearing, if there's an important vote coming up, those are instances when it's important for an advocate to actually get out and establish a meeting with that member of Congress or his or her staff. Good advocacy depends on an ongoing mutual relationship. Sometimes in these relationships, you may not always get what you want. Where you may not affect change at the moment, you can affect change in the future, but being able to do that depends on your absolute ability to have the trust of that member of Congress, credibility amongst their staff, and an ability to be trusted as a nonpartisan source of information concerning medical marijuana. And finally, it's important that advocates listen and share information. Part of establishing any relationship with your member of Congress is also understanding what their position is and why they have that position. Once you gain that knowledge, it's important that you relay that information to your network of supporters and advocates on the ground. Sharing that information is the way we as a movement develop intel, create new campaigns, and broaden our audience to support the issues that affect us most.
I can understand how people breaking the law may feel like embarrassed or afraid to talk to members of Congress. We're not there to squeal on you. This is a client relationship. People come in to talk to us about their problems with Social Security, Medicare, Veterans Affairs, immigration, what have you. Those are confidential discussions. So, petitioning your government in a way, unless you want to make it public, can be very confidential. And we have people that are in prison petitioning Congress members. So everyone has a right to petition somebody and to ask that they help them in their issue.
Steph had a friend in Dianne Feinstein's office and nobody had called her about this issue. I thought, well, I can make a phone call. I wanted to encourage other people to do the same thing, and I made a post online, and another staff member of ASA responded to my post and said, did you know you can do more than just call your representative or your congressional legislator? And she encouraged me to meet with them.
Sometimes you'll be scheduled to meet with a staff member instead of the elected official. Don't worry about that. Staff people in the offices of elected officials are very important, and they really do influence the opinion of the elected official themselves. So go ahead and meet with that staff person, and that may be a precursor to meeting with the elected official. Once that meeting is scheduled, you want to be sure you're prepared. Read up on your issue, have your talking points in order, and know what you're going to say to the elected official before you arrive. You may also want to bring a small amount of printed material to share with the elected official, a report, a press release, or some other short piece of information. Don't bring too much. They don't have time to read it all. When you meet with your elected official, you can use resources from Americans for Safe Access to help make that meeting more impactful. We have on our website newsletters, policy statements, reports, and other printed materials that may be useful. It's important to pick and choose carefully. You don't want to bring the elected official or his or her staff too much material because they just don't have time to read it all.
And I just picked up the phone, called my Congress member's office, said I would like to sit down and speak with a staff member about medical cannabis. And then she came out, the staff member, and she was actually in a wheelchair, electronic wheelchair. And the first thought that went through my mind is she's one of us. She understands what it means to live with a life-altering medical condition. So she's going to at least understand what we're dealing with, what I'm dealing with myself. I'm not in a wheelchair, but I deal with my own issues. I told her about my medical condition and why I use cannabis, and then the concerns I had about the federal government's involvement in California's medical cannabis law.
If you want to change things, all you have to do is get involved.